The Democratic Party is banking on Joe Biden. That's their big bet. And the voters are going out in droves to vote for this man who has no idea where he is, who can't talk, and has been called out by the left and the right forever. But the latest video from Joe Biden's campaign is one of the most disturbing, shocking bits of evidence of his cognitive decline I have ever seen. In his video, he was doing some virtual town hall because, as you know, we're all basically locked down around the country and the cameras aren't working. But I kid you not, he starts muttering and mumbling. I have no idea what he's trying to say. And then he starts walking off camera. The dude forgets that he's live streaming a town hall to talk to voters and starts walking away. His campaign then puts up a graphic to cover the fact that Joe Biden doesn't know what he's doing or what he's talking about. He starts muttering about estuaries and endangered species. I have no idea. Dude, I am angered, and I mean this. I really mean this. It is sad, and I am getting angry. You know what I see when I see Joe Biden? I see a man who never made it. He was the vice president. Okay, he got close. He almost touched the clouds, and he wants to be president, and he wants to run, and he wants to have that under his belt. He wants to be that, have that legacy. But man, he just can't do it. And for the Democratic Party to put him up like this while he just looks out of his mind is maddening. It is disrespectful and it is sad. There is a certain point in someone's life where you politely tell them the truth. You just can't do it anymore. The dude needs an intervention, but he is surrounded by desperate yes men who are terrified of Bernie Sanders and would put him in this position where he's losing his mind. It's time to lay down and read a book, buddy. This is sad. There's a lot to go through here, and I'm not going to cut any slack to the Bernie Sanders people because while Joe Biden may be literally losing his mind in cognitive decline, you have a media trying to tell everyone, no, it's not true. Don't believe it. Joe Biden's fine. And now the Bernie Sanders people think there's a grand conspiracy. And you know what? Based on Joe Biden's cognitive decline, based on the things he's tried to say and failed, I am absolutely surprised people are voting for this guy. But I think there's a harsh reality the Bernie Sanders people need to realize. 1, youth vote doesn't come out. And 2, even though Joe Biden is completely out of his gourd at this point, people might prefer that if it stops socialism. Look, these young people really love socialism, but older people don't, and they will vote for anything other than socialism. So let's take a look at the first story. I want to show you this from The Verge. Joe Biden's first virtual town hall was an absolute technical nightmare. And I'm going to show you. But the first thing I have to show you is this story. Joe Biden forgets ear, meanders off frame in disastrous live stream. It's sad, man. I'm looking at this old guy who wants to have something he just can't have anymore. Look, when I was younger, I wanted to be one of the best skateboarders in the world. I'm in my 30s, and that'll never happen. I grew up. I moved on. I found what I was good at, and I did what I had to do. And not everyone's going to be the rock star, the astronaut, or the president. And when you're 77 and you're having trouble speaking and thinking and you're forgetting where you are, dude, it's time to realize you're not going to be the president, man. Let's read the story. Before I get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can help support me, but the best thing you can do is share this video. Look, I think Joe Biden's voters, the people who aren't paying attention, need a hard wake-up call. Now, I'm going to throw a little cold water on the Bernie supporters, the ones who are coming out screaming that they think there's rigging going on, like the Democrats are actually hard changing votes. But I still think if you're a Bernie progressive, people need to see what's going on with Biden. Absolutely need to see it. So let's just get into this. The other thing I'll add is make sure you subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. YouTube is no longer, for the most part, doing autoplay recommendations or, after video recommendations, and they are suppressing my content and many others. If you want to make sure you get these videos because you like what I do, subscribe, notification bell, you get the gist. This story is from Breitbart. I know many people might not like it, but just bear with it. They're absolutely harsh on Joe Biden, but they include commentary from progressive leftists who agree. Listen, man, when you get the progressive left and you get the Trump right agreeing about something, there's got to be something there. And the media and the Democratic establishment can try all they like to sweep this under the rug, but it is not. I just don't see it working. I see a lot of people who aren't paying attention voting for Biden, and if they knew it was actually happening, they would be shocked. But I think it's fair to say maybe people really know, and they just really don't want Bernie Sanders. Breitbart says, Grandpa Joe Biden wants to run the country and save us from coronavirus when he can't even run a live stream and has no idea what year it is. On Friday, Grandpa Joe held what his campaign billed as a virtual town hall in Illinois. In my colleague Kyle Olson's must-read reporting of the event, you'll discover the whole thing was a fiasco, like something out of a sitcom. Guests appeared and then disappeared. The sound was garbled. People were introduced, followed by an awkward pause when they didn't appear. Babies cried. I literally, this is a disaster. This campaign is a disaster. The Democratic Party is in shambles, man. And I know I've said it before, but this is it's just getting worse. I was looking at other videos I made and I'm like, the Democratic Party collapse, unmitigated disaster. And I'm like, how do I say this again? How do I keep saying it? It's getting worse, man. It really is. Biden seemed to be reading from a teleprompter, but the broadcast suffered from severe tech issues as Biden's words were caught in a feedback loop, muddying the whole presentation and making the candidate nearly indecipherable. After starting 2 hours late, the fiasco lasted about 45 minutes. For my money, this clip from The Honeymooners, where Ralph and Ed attempt to do a live television commercial, is the funniest thing ever captured on film. Sounds like Grandpa Joe just took that crown. Technical difficulties, however, are technical difficulties. That doesn't mean those technical difficulties are not newsworthy. After all, we are talking about a major presidential campaign, about the competency or lack thereof of the people handpicked by Biden to run his campaign. So it is a bit disconcerting that Joe and his staffers were unable to put on the equivalent of a video podcast, something millions of everyday Americans are able to do every day in their basements without a hitch. I'm literally in my basement where I put a studio together and I'm complaining about my feelings to a camera. And Joe Biden, a presidential campaign, couldn't pull this off. You know what, man? The Democratic Party right now has the capabilities, doesn't even have the capabilities of my 10-year-old niece who knows how to make YouTube videos. This is shocking. But when you see what Biden actually says, look at this. Jordan Ull, anything but a conservative. This is a progressive guy, as far as I know. In a bizarre, meandering live stream put on by Joe Biden's campaign today, he forgets what year it is and when, if he doesn't lose, he would be in office. At another point, he seemingly forgets he's on a live stream and walks out of frame. The feed cuts away to a logo instead. You've got to be kidding me, man. Is this what you were putting up against Trump? Trump could be facing a stock market drop to zero, and he's going to trounce Joe Biden if that's the option that people in America have. Worse still is people are going to lose confidence in the system. But you know what? You reap what you sow. Look at this. For those that are watching, I'm not going to play the whole clip. But you can see Joe Biden walking off frame. He's in the middle of a live stream and he just turns around and walks away. He's done this before. There's a video of him at some town hall event or something. He's on stage looking at the audience. He turns around towards the back wall. It's a big screen and walks away while mumbling something. He keeps doing this. I can't believe there are people who are trying to pretend like Joe Biden hasn't lost his mind. And I'm not saying that to be mean, man. I feel like the people around him are disgusting individuals. You need to tell Joe it's time to stop. They should have stopped him a long time ago. Pete Buttigieg ain't perfect, but Pete Buttigieg is in his 30s and is infinitely better than Joe Biden. They're both the moderates. It's fine. I know you might not like them. Many people don't like them, but come on, man. To make this guy go through this sprint and he can't even talk was a ridiculous idea. But you know what? Maybe they just couldn't stand up to Grandpa Joe. When he said, no, I want to do this, they should have said no. Absolutely not. Instead, they were like, you do it. You do it, Joe. Apparently, Obama told him you don't have to do this. So at least some people tried to get him to stop. It's sad, man. So the whole thing was mired by technical difficulties, garbled videos, failing cameras, weird sounds, babies crying. Everybody's taking note. It was a disaster. Check this out. From The Intercept, Glenn Greenwald. Democrats and their media allies impugned Biden's cognitive fitness. Now they feign outrage. Now they're angry, saying it's a coordinated media campaign to smear Joe Biden and make it seem like he's lost the plot, like his brain isn't working. There's a trending hashtag, Biden's cognitive decline, because everyone knows. You've got the progressive left and the Trump right unified. You know why? It's reality. The media is lying. They lie. It's what they do. They lie about progressives when they're going up against their establishment candidates. They smear Cenk of the Young Turks. Now, I wish the Bernie people and the progressives would actually call out the media like the Trump people have been doing for a long time, because we know they're lying. And now you can see it hitting both sides. Guess what? If you notice that Joe Biden ain't all there, you're not alone and you're not crazy. That's the reality. But hey, if you turn on the mainstream media, guess what you'll see? They will tell you you have lost your mind. I'm sorry, man. When the Young Turks can see it and when Trump supporters can see it, you cannot deny it. You can try. You can try, but no one's going to buy it. Check this out. From the Washington Monthly. The disinformation campaign being launched against Biden. There is no data to support the allegation that he is in cognitive decline. Data. Let me say that again for you. There is no data. Are you kidding? Is someone going to put together a graph of Joe Biden's gaffes exponentially increasing? Or are we going to watch the videos of him struggling to speak, meandering off camera, mumbling about gibberish, estuaries and danger? What are you talking about, Joe? It's getting worse, man. They're apparently, for the next debate, they wanted to have him sit down. They know. And they are putting him through this because they are just bad people. Or they're that desperate. Now, I'll tell you what. Bill Maher, good dude. I like Bill Maher. Bill Maher said some dumb stuff. Notably, he said, bring on the recession if it gets rid of Trump. And he got slammed hard for it. And you know what? He owned it. He was like, people are mad at me for saying it. Yeah, whatever. Hey, that's not a bad. I think it's still dumb he said that. But you know what I respect? That he says something and says, whatever. Do something about it. He actually stands up for himself, even if he thinks stupid things. I think that thing is stupid, but I think a lot of what he says is actually on point. He called Joe Biden a little cuckoo. Thank you, Bill Maher, for calling this out. The media likes to pretend like it's only conservatives going after Joe Biden, ignoring the progressive left who have been going after him as well. They say it's a Trump GOP smear campaign to shut down Joe Biden. Knock it off. No one's buying it. More than around half, a little bit less than half of the people voting right now are voting for Bernie Sanders. And look, Bernie Sanders is a 78-year-old man who had a heart attack recently, and he's a socialist. These are things that are huge net negatives for his campaigns. Sad reality. I got to say, even with that being said, I'm surprised people are voting for Joe Biden. I really do believe if people just saw Joe Biden fumbling around and wandering off camera, they'd start to realize he's not a good choice. Now, I'm not saying Bernie's the right choice for this country, but you got to admit, with all of Bernie's problems, the heart attack, right? At least he can say his ideas. And Bernie recently came out calling out the globalization and foreign trade policies with China that resulted in a national security threat. And that was very impressive to me. Sounds like how sounds like, now I'm pulling a Joe Biden. Sounds like how Bernie used to speak back in 2015. Then he started embracing all this progressive stuff. I think Bernie's going to start coming back to the center now, at least a little bit. Not in economic policy, but at least in rational thought, like border protections and such. Now that he's trying to win, he's trying to beat Joe Biden. He's got to adopt more moderate policies. But I actually do have this tweet. Check it out. Senator Bernie Sanders, quote, as a result of globalization and our disastrous trade policies, we have been outsourcing millions of jobs in factories overseas that have gutted our economy. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So listen, there's a lot wrong with Bernie's ideas, in my opinion. He doesn't know how to pay for things, how much they'll cost. But come on, man. You don't have to like the guy to recognize that Biden should not be the nominee. At this point, they have the choice between Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. And as much as I've been a fan of Tulsi, come on, let's be realists. She's not getting that support that she needs. She's got a decent following of people. They very much support her. But Bernie is the guy. And I guess you can say either people just don't know about Biden or they really, really hate socialism. But I want to show you some progressives. This is from Caitlin Johnstone. I don't want to accuse her of being a progressive. I think she's at least anti-Trump. She wrote this on Medium in September. Biden's brain is Swiss cheese, and it's creepy that we're not talking about it. I completely agree. I'm talking about it right now because it scares me. The idea that this is what they're going to prop up. Listen, man, I don't care who you want to support. Maybe you're a Trump populist. Maybe you're a Bernie populist. Can we all just agree, before anything else, it should not be Joe Biden? I'm sorry, man. I feel really bad for the guy. I do. Look, I know he's gone through a history. He's voted for policies that have been controversial. I'm not going to blame someone based off of the mistakes of the past that our society was going through that was acceptable at the time. I think it's dumb to look back 40 years and say, how could you support that? Well, listen, man, society believed things and did things, and we progressed beyond that, and people changed their opinions. But what's sad now is that I just feel like this guy, he's nearing the end of the road. And what does he have? He was vice president. Bravo, dude. Second place, man. Silver medals are awesome, but he wants the gold. And so even though he's lost the ability, he's still reaching for it. And it's just sad, man, to see this guy really trying to compete. It's like, you know, seeing an old dude try and compete in the Olympics. It's like, come on. You got to make way for the younger people to take the reins. It's just not going to be you. And Bernie is actually older than Joe Biden. But I'll say it again, at least Bernie Sanders can speak English. Now I'm going to throw some shade up at the Bernie people. Y'all don't get a free pass just because Joe Biden has lost the plot. Check this out. First, Bernie bros are warning of a massive exodus if Democrats nominate Joe Biden. That I get. Hey, man, I'm not going to blame you. I wouldn't vote for Joe Biden. That guy's clearly out of it. And I actually, you know, the policies he's presented, like public option stuff, I'm more likely to agree with him. But there's a certain point where you think he just doesn't have the ability. So now the Bernie progressives, many of whom rightly recognize that Joe Biden should not be the nominee, are jumping ship. All I can really say is, I guess, good for you, man. Stand up for what you believe in. I certainly have no interest in being involved with whatever it is they're doing. I don't want to vote for Bernie either. But at least there are people who are Democrats who are willing to say no and walk away. They might not walk away to the Republican Party. They might not walk away to a third party, Libertarians, Green Party, whatever, but they're going to walk away from Joe Biden. And it bums me out because I feel so sad this guy's being put through this, but it's his own fault. You reap what you sow. But now I got to show you where the fringe is stepping up. Bernie supporters, you got to check yourself. First, another story from Breitbart. Alexandria OcasioCortez. Biden is winning because of rampant voter suppression in this country. Okay, first of all, Joe Biden actually won the African-American vote, primarily in South Carolina and many other states. Bernie Sanders is not doing that well. I think in Michigan and Mississippi as well. So no, it's not voter suppression. Biden is just doing better than Bernie Sanders. And to me, that is kind of freaky, I got to admit. They say, they have a quote, I guess. Thursday on Fox News' channel special report, Rep. Alexandria OcasioCortez said her candidate Bernie Sanders is losing in the Democratic Party's presidential primary to former Vice President Joe Biden because of rampant voter suppression. When asked by Bret Baier, you're Bernie Sanders' most prominent surrogate. Was it difficult to witness his swift fall from the frontrunner status? He is almost a protest candidate now. Your thoughts, she said. One of the things that we saw with Bernie Sanders' leadership, even today, is how transformative it is for the American people. Just today, he laid out a very strong plan in response to the coronavirus for everyday people, for Main Street, not just Wall Street. He's talking about how do we make sure that everyone who needs access to Medicare can get it? How do we make sure people aren't getting booted out of their homes, whether it's not being able to afford the mortgage payment this month or not being able to afford their rent payment? He goes on to say, Bret Baier asks, you did a campaign event at the University of Michigan, 10,000 people. It was rock star status, but those kids did not show up, at least if you look at the numbers. Overall, this race, how can you say the progressive position is still prevailing nationwide when Joe Biden is winning so much? And she said, I think the one thing that isn't being talked about is the rampant voter suppression in this country. Right there in Ann Arbor, where we had that rally, those kids were waiting 3 hours in line to vote in Michigan. When we talk about who's turning out, it's who's turning out and who's not turning out. Baier interrupted. You think voters didn't get to vote who wanted to vote in Michigan? And she said, absolutely. There's more that we need to do in terms of turning out youth vote. We need to make sure that we are inspiring young people to turn out. But when you do turn out, you should not be waiting 3, 4, 7 hours in order to vote. Yes, she's right about that. You should have to wait that long. But come on, man. Voter suppression now? They claim Republicans are suppressing vote. Now they're claiming the Democrats are, you know what? No, just stop. Bernie Sanders did not get the minority vote, and the youth vote did not turn out. Period. I'm sorry. Take a look at this. This user on Twitter said, dude, I'm sorry, but there's no way this is possible. LMFAO. And it's a picture of Michigan where Biden dominated every single district. This shocked many Bernie supporters because he won Michigan last time. Let me show you something. Here was one of the responses. Bernie Sanders dominated in the youth vote, 29%. And Joe Biden dominated the older vote, 71%. You know what that means? Biden won 71% of the votes in Michigan. and Bernie won 29%. You can brag all day and night about how youth voters support you, but they do not vote. It's not suppression when they choose not to vote. Of course, there's more, because they're taking it one step further, and activists are now arguing the DNC is cheating the primaries because the exit polls don't match the margin of error for the actual results. Now, that's interesting, and I think it's worth noting for sure, but it could just be that young people and enthusiastic activists love screeching for Bernie, and regular people walk in, check the D on the box, and walk away without saying anything. There's a lot of reasons why the polls might show this margin of error. The polls are just wrong, perhaps. They were wrong in 2016 across the board. Many of them are still wrong today. So why should I trust any of the polls are right today? It stands to reason that Americans have said over and over again they don't want to vote for socialism. Now, about half of Democrats would, and we're seeing it. Yeah, they're choosing Bernie, but not enough to get him the win. Most Democrats are still rejecting socialism. So they show these images. TDMS research saying that the margin of error in the exit polls were too wild to be accurate. And now some people are even tweeting that the UN standards that show that if the margin of error in the exit poll is too great, there must be some kind of election rigging. I mean, these are interesting points, but come on, man. Let's just face the facts. The Democratic Party as a whole is just it's in pure chaos. The campaigns for both have become unmitigated disasters. Bernie supporters, desperate for a win, turn to the only explanation possible, that the DNC is actually flipping hard votes. Now, look, man, we know they've cheated in terms of the rules of the primary debate. I've complained about it nonstop. Yes, they are cheating. But flipping the votes in the primary system, that would mean that the volunteers in these places are in on the take. There's too many people. I just don't buy it. The simple solution is old people coming out won't vote for socialism. That's really it. Now, you can look for every excuse in the book. It's just likely not the case, man. But there's a petition. I love it. Nearly 22,000 people have signed this Move On petition. Let me refresh this to make sure. I bet the numbers have gone up. 22,368. UN is needed to oversee Democratic primaries due to election fraud. This isn't coming from Trump supporters. It's not Trump supporters that are coming out and saying Joe Biden's lost his mind. It is the progressive left saying the DNC is cheating. They're flipping votes. It's voter fraud and Joe Biden's gone nuts. So now you can see the American people from Bernie to Trump agree. This system isn't working. They think it's rigged. You've got Trump supporters thinking that there's election fraud across the board, voter fraud. Well, the progressive Democrats agree with you. Both sides are correctly recognizing that Joe Biden is not all there anymore. And you know what? The Democratic Party has already admitted they will absolutely hurt themselves if it means stopping Bernie Sanders. That's not a conspiracy. That's what they said. I think it was Politico, or no, it was New York Times, I think, interviewed several superdelegates, party members, and they basically said that's what they're going to do. In the end, maybe they're putting up Biden on purpose. I don't know. Maybe they think it's the best they could muster. I mean, Biden's not even B tier. Okay. You know, Barack Obama, he's the A team. He became president. You got Buttigieg, Klobuchar, you got Beto. They're all very B team like. But Joe Biden is not even on par with them because at least the rest of them can talk, man. You know, I've said it, but I guess it bears repeating. Trump is going to win. I don't think there's any amount of economic damage that could occur that's going to stop Donald Trump. And I mean that. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm wrong a lot and things change. I look back at some of my old videos. I'm like, man, I can't believe that was the case. I was worried Bloomberg was actually going to get the nomination. Now he's dropped out. I was wrong about that. Listen, I base my opinions off of the current information available to me. And as time goes on, my opinion's going to change based on relevant data. But the more we see Joe Biden, the more I think it's clear that if the Democrats continue to go this route, propping up Joe Biden, I do not see a path to victory for a man who can't even talk, let alone stand up for 2 hours, and they're going to have him be sitting down. Now, this is going to be interesting. They probably won't do it. Initially, they said it would be a sit-down audience Q&A, but because of recent events, there's not going to be an audience. They're moving to D.C. So sitting down would be pointless. There's not going to be audience Q&A. They're going to have to debate with moderators. The whole thing is a disaster. And with the latest news happening around the world, I'm not sure how they're going to even have the convention. So I guess we will just wait and see. I'm going to say it one more time. Watching Joe Biden flail around up there makes me sad. It does. I see a guy with ambition, and I can respect that. I see a guy who's not perfect. I can respect anyone reaching for the stars, but there's a certain point where you've reached your limit, and it's time to say enough. We all get old. We all, our abilities decline. It's a sad reality of life. A lot of people resist it, but I think it's just something to be accepted. We get older. We're not as good physically or mentally as we once were. I'm in my 30s. I know I'm going to be his age at one point. I'm halfway there. I'm just about halfway there. So I get it. I'm not going to cry about it. And I'm not going to pretend like I should be the one with the keys to the castle simply because I always wanted it. Nah, I have no problem saying at a certain point, it's time to hand the keys off to the kids, to say it's your turn now. This is your world. Joe Biden needs to do that because watching him struggle is just sad. I'll see you all in the next segment at 6 p.m. YouTube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out.